did make one move moving on from veteran edge rusher Za'Darius Smith, sending Z off to the Detroit Lions, a move that kind of felt like we all knew was going to happen, had been really talked about in the last few weeks. Released defensive tackle Quinton Jefferson. We'll break it all down. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and we appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd, become an everyday, or subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So the Cleveland Browns were in the trade market today. A move that was pretty much broken to us, I guess, by Pro Football Talk during the game on Sunday. Still odd. But Za'Darius Smith was, in fact, moved to the Detroit Lions. The Cleveland Browns will get the Detroit Lions 2025 fifth-round pick, so this year's pick. The teams will swap picks in 2026. The Cleveland Browns will surrender their 7th for the Detroit Lions 6th in 2026. For Za'Darius, production-wise, stat-wise, it was probably going to be a better year for him this year than it was last year. Was active last year, high amount of pressures last year. 5 sacks for Za'Darius through 7 games to this point. But for the Browns, there was no future here. And in the 2 moves they did today, you moved on from a 31-year-old player, you moved on from a 32-year-old player. In addition to Za'Darius Smith, Quinton Jefferson, defensive tackle, was released. Jefferson had been a healthy and active scratch the last 4 weeks. But for Za'Darius, this was a move that was done right after, I guess now that would be the 2023 NFL draft. Browns have always been kind of diligent in trying to get another solid pass rusher with Myles Garrett, and this has gone on the entire pretty much time of Myles Garrett's tenure here, whether it was Olivier Vernon, whether it was Jadeveon Clowney, and of course, Za'Darius Smith the last couple of years. This certainly opens up an opportunity for Isaiah McGuire, second-year player. Ironically enough, according to PFF, McGuire was one of the top 5 graded Cleveland Browns last Sunday against, of course, the Los Angeles Chargers. So McGuire, former 4th-round pick, big opportunity for him now. The Browns, this would have been an opportunity for Alex Wright. Alex Wright, obviously on IR, his season is over, so he will go into the 4th year of his 4-year rookie deal next year. McGuire will go next year into the 3rd year of his 4-year rookie deal. Ogmenaya Okoronkwo certainly going to get a lot of time at both edge opportunities here. And probably looking to solidify his spot in the rotation for 2025. Wright is a guy they like. They've always liked the work ethic, but McGuire really has an opportunity to shine here now. The tape at Missouri was certainly, solid. You want to fire up tape, from a guy in the SEC. You want to see the big boys. You want to see Georgia. And, Isaiah McGuire was certainly a player and an active player in those games. Za'Darius, this is a great opportunity here. Kind of just went from, basically the outhouse to the penthouse. You're going to, in my opinion, is the best team in the National Football Conference. For me, they solidified that stance or that stature last Sunday with a big road win in Green Bay. It's good that that Detroit can play, well outside on the road. That will behoove them, as the season goes on here. But, the irony of the fact of the matter is that Detroit is, trying to maneuver this so, that once the playoffs begin, they never step outside again, hopefully to host and be the home field, number 1 seed through the NFC playoffs. And, if they do in fact make it, the Super Bowl would be in New Orleans. So Detroit, I like the move for Detroit. I think it's a good move for Detroit. I think, they're really, really playing well right now. Got a great, dynamic duo in the backfield. Wide receivers, Amon St. Brown, of course, the tight end all making plays. Jared Goff is really, really taken well to Detroit and has really played well. The defense certainly can use a playmaker like Za'Darius Smith in the wake of losing a potential NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Nathan Hutchinson. For Za'Darius, it wasn't a terrible run here in Cleveland. Kind of hate to see the guy go, but you kind of see the writing on the wall as far as where the Browns 2024 season is. And, for Za'Darius, he's had some good runs with the Ravens, certainly the Packers, Vikings, Browns, and if Za'Darius Smith does make it to the playoffs this year with the Detroit Lions, Za'Darius Smith will have been a part of a playoff team for 5 different franchises. It's kind of unique in the NFL. It really is, especially in this, day of age of player turnover. So all the best to Za'Darius. Quinton Jefferson, healthy scratch, the last 4 weeks. Never really worked out, I think, the way the Browns were hoping it was going to work out. And it was maybe at the time a little bit of an odd move, because we were always having those conversations as far as trying to, the Browns roster. It seemed like they had 6 defensive tackles. We knew they were going to carry 5 on the 53. Look, but at 2-7, there's no reason Juwan Briggs should be on the practice squad anymore at this point. And even if he makes it to the 53, he could be a good candidate to maybe not suit up each and every week. But 6'3", 315 pounds, 23 years old, had a great final year at Cincinnati, was great throughout the draft process. There's no reason at 2-7 to not have Juwan Briggs, get in here, get some NFL reps, and certainly, help the Browns as far as, the accelerated path to getting an idea just where Juwan Briggs would stand as far as 2025 is concerned. Other candidates, possibly Sam Kamara, because right now the Browns have 2 open roster spots. Sam Kamara has been up and down a little bit, but Sam Kamara can kind of play inside. He can kind of play outside. Also, one name that is also, on the Browns practice squad, Marcus Haynes. He's 6'4". He's about 240 pounds. He's not ideal as far as what the Browns are looking and have been looking at as far as body types in recent past years of the defensive end position. But Isaiah McGuire, he's closer to his size. Haynes is also closer in stature to maybe Ogbenaya Okoronkwo. So, obviously it's not something we're going to get to see the way this works out this week. We will certainly get to see the way it works out next week. And wouldn't be surprised at all if the Browns are scouring other teams' practice squads as we speak right now, looking to bring in maybe a young athletic guy who the Browns can throw on the field and, kind of run it up the flagpole, see what he wants. But let's also not forget Mike Hall can play some edge for this team as well. So Browns made a move, that they probably everybody kind of saw coming. So best of luck to Za'Darius Smith in Detroit. Quinton Jefferson, maybe an opportunity here for him to, pick up a job as a free agent, possibly with a contender, can give you a little bit of a pass rush presence from the inside. We'll continue on here. Your latest Locked On Browns, Za'Darius Smith has been traded to the Detroit Lions. You've been seeing it like the buzz of the NBA, right? A lot of it. Celebrities always in, always sitting, in the front row seats, sitting near center court. You've been seeing a lot of games now where the WNBA ladies have been showing up, trying to promote their brand, and obviously going to watch some of their favorite male counterparts. So if you want to get into an NBA arena, I'm suggesting you might want to get into one soon, especially the way the Cavaliers are playing, because those tickets are just going to get more and more expensive. But if you do need a ticket and you don't want to pay too much, you should check out Game Time. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. The Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. I suggest toggling the all-in pricing feature. It shows the total up front, so no surprise fees at checkout. You go from window to window and the cost gets higher and higher. If you just do the all-in price toggling, you will get your price and you will get it right away. You also have the Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. taking the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. Become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free. Wherever you get your podcasts after you're done here, make sure you check out Locked On NFL Podcast. Tyler Rowan in the AMs. And then, of course, Anthony Wiggins in the PM. These guys will be breaking down all the NFL trade deadline deals that went down. Look, I know, you guys see people moved, and, nobody wants to admit their year is over. Nobody wants to admit their year was a failure. I get it. But this isn't baseball. You don't play 162 of them. You ain't got a chance to make a major rally and comeback. It's 2-7. It's pretty much done, over, and buried. Sucks. I get it. It does. But this is the evaluation time and evaluation period. As far as other guys that could have got moved, I thought maybe a guy like Michael Dunn, but there's not a lot of playing time on the resume of Mike Dunn. So maybe, there wasn't just a ton of interest there. You also think the Browns don't really technically have a backup center. So there's another reason why Mike Dunn would probably be kept around, of course. Maybe there was talk of David Njoku, and, I'm sure teams placed a call, same thing with Myles Garrett. And look, for those of you that, say, well, if it's that broken, let's break the whole damn thing down. I kind of get it. But if you make a move and you move Myles Garrett now, and this is what I'm trying to say, that you don't trade a Myles Garrett in season, because say even you work out a deal with a team for Myles Garrett. Ideally, that team is going to improve. So whatever draft picks you just got, within 2 to 3 weeks, they're suddenly going to be worth less in value. I will never trade Myles Garrett. But for those of you that are, entertaining the thought process of it, that is a trade that is not done during the season. That is certainly a trade that is done in the offseason and leading up, once the season ends and then leading up towards the NFL draft. I'm not moving him. Njoku, same thing. These two from the same draft class in 2017. Myles, the #1 overall pick. David was a guy with all the potential in the world, drafted later in round 1. We've seen it kind of come together for David Njoku. It's not been flourishing to this point this year, and this is kind of what I try to tell everybody and why, I was hoping it would be better with Jameis Winston. If you don't throw the ball a ton vertically, if you don't attack vertically, having a great tight end who is a mismatch nightmare as far as coverage is concerned, you're basically neutering him. You are taking away the advantage that you have in David Njoku. David Njoku on a football field is similar to the queen piece in chess. He can kind of do it all. But if you are not going to attack the field vertically, you're basically turning him into a rook. And that's why David is not necessarily having the success right now that he had last year with Joe Flacco, who was throwing an insane amount of deeper vertical routes. Not with always the greatest expectation or the greatest outcome, but it certainly created a much bigger opportunity for David Njoku to go out there and haunt opposing defenses. It's really, Greg Newsome was a name that a lot of the, prominent NFL writers, the Ian Rappaports of the world kept putting out there. But, Greg's still on a first-year contract. Greg has had his fifth-year option picked up for 2025, which I think is somewhere in the range of $14 million. And, judging by the play this year, I'm not sure there's anybody who wants to be on the hook for Greg Newsome's money this year and the rest of Greg Newsome's money this year, and also that $14 million next year. It's not a knock on Greg. He's having a rough time. He's certainly not the only guy in Cleveland having a rough time right now. So this is certainly a big 8-game stretch coming up after the bye week for guys like Greg Newsome, for guys like Martin Emerson, who came into this year and, their star was kind of on the rise. And, Cleveland was expecting a lot of big things. These guys are not the only guys that, have not performed to expectations. The safety room has certainly had their issues. Denzel Ward, Juan Thornhill. I'm not sure who you're pointing the finger at, on Sunday. And, none of it really stinking matters now, if you want to be honest. But certainly there were communication issues and communication breakdowns, as far as that was concerned on Sunday. As if you're a fan and, you're going to be here every Sunday. And, I know a lot of you say, that's it, I'm done, I can't come back for this year. I think we've all said those words. I don't know how many truly believe them. But, I want to see, the progression path of Mike Hall. I would certainly, want to see more, of course, and see anything from Juwan Briggs. Isaiah McGuire is certainly a player I want to see. Maurice Hurst, can he go out and perform? Will the Browns be able to keep a guy that everybody seems to like, and certainly a fan favorite as a rotational piece? We want to see the, development of DeJuan Jones at the left tackle position. I don't think this is anything that's going to change. And Coach Stefanski basically admitted to that yesterday when he spoke to the media. This is something where the Browns probably going to run him out, God willing, health willing, for the next 8 games. If DeJuan Jones can prove to the Browns that he can be their left tackle in 2025, that is a coup. And we're going to do some episodes here over the next few days, certainly with it being the bye week. And then there's a lot of talk about, rebuild. And nobody wants to have those conversations. I'm going to go with a little bit more of a soft rebuild approach. Kind of like when John Taffer comes in and tears apart your bar in 48 hours, you're up and running and it's all glorious. John Taffer. We're going to do a little bar rescue, but we'll do a little Cleveland Browns rescue with the soft rebuild of the Cleveland Browns in the coming days. Za'Darius Smith traded, Quinton Jefferson released. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I want to thank all of you guys. I appreciate, this is definitely my comfort zone, my chill zone, my relax zone of each and every day. You guys mean the world to me. We get to sit down here, basically break bread, talk some Cleveland Browns football. This month is all about gratitude. And along with the person I just shouted out, there's another person we don't get to thank enough, ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything in this crazy world. And that's not easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. Therapy can make us all better people. So if you are thinking of starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if it's just not working out. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We are closing out your latest Locked On Browns. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. If you are not part of the everyday crowd by now, make a new plan, Stan, and that new plan is to subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Again, make sure you check out the Locked On NFL podcast following Tyler Rowan. And of course, Tony Wiggins breaking down all the action from the 2024 NFL trade deadline. Za'Darius Smith moved on to the Detroit Lions. Interesting fact, like I said to you guys earlier, Za'Darius Smith will have the opportunity to be part of the playoffs with a fifth different team. It's pretty insane to think about. Quinton Jefferson released. I'm assuming the Browns were trying to stoke the fires to get somebody to maybe give up something for him. It's kind of hard to get somebody to trade something for a guy that you have not had active in the last 4 weeks. So with that being said, Quinton Jefferson released. Certainly, we'll see where Quinton ends up. Try to find himself, hopefully a contender to basically jump on and see if he can maybe get himself back into the playoffs. For, the Browns and, everybody, it's 9. Look, currently it is 9 draft choices. Yes, you have a first, you have a second, you have 2/3, a fourth, a fifth, and 2 sixths. The other two, there are those people who are out there as far as the compensatory picks. The Browns are slated to get 2 compensatory picks as well, which would put the Cleveland Browns haul to 11 picks in 2025. Those 4 picks inside the top 100. You guys know me. I absolutely love the draft. I am really looking forward to this. I'm not going to lie. I did not want the Browns to compete this year by any means whatsoever. I would rather sit here talk winning football all day long. But the one thing the Deshaun Watson trade did do was hamper, in my opinion, one of the best things I do in covering an NFL team on the daily. We just got void of how we could cover the draft. It's real tough, when you can't talk about the first 50, 60, 65 players because your team has no chance at getting them. There will be certainly some long conversations. This draft class has its early odd reviews, not a lot at the quarterback position, in my opinion. And that's certainly something we'll do when we start talking about the soft rebuild and what maybe is best for the Browns to do as far as the quarterback position for 2025. And I'll tell you, and I will say it, and I don't care if they do it, I will say it is not number 4. 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 Give him his money. Tell him to stay home. Swear him out with it. I've seen, what was the old line from, A League of Their Own? I've seen enough to know I've seen too much. And in this case, seen too much means I haven't seen anything. I'm done. I am absolutely done. I will take quarterback C behind the curtain as opposed to watching that guy try to quarterback this team again. Done. Flat out done. Something happened to the game. Something, in my opinion, which I talked about a lot. I think it's something to do with his psyche. And look, it was kind of brought on himself. But, when you go somewhere, anywhere, and you're just not a well-liked individual, and let's be honest, probably not liked by many at all, that's a big burden and a big toll to carry. And I think that certainly 100% had something to do with the way he was not performing on the field. But, you look and, this team is going to have offensive line questions for 2025. They're going to have probably a question at the wide receiver position about getting another guy or two in here. Certainly another tight end besides David Njoku. One thing this class does have that looks pretty good to this point is running backs. I think Nick Chubb will be back. A lot of that, of course, will be on Nick Chubb. Does he want to come back? I don't see any reason he wouldn't. This franchise has always treated him like gold. Then you get to the defensive side of the ball. I think one of the big major moves that will be a part of the Browns offseason in 2025 will be getting a good investment in an edge rusher. And it's not a knock on McGuire. It's not a knock on certainly, Alex Wright. It's just, as Miles gets older, you would like to give him more and more rest. And, you build your team with pass rushers with the thought process of, if we are a good team and we get leads, I want to unleash the beast on the other team's opposing quarterback. Certainly going to be a lot of questions and a lot of chatter about the Browns secondary and what they're going to do in the offseason as 24 ends going into 25. So Browns currently looking at 11 draft choices in the 2025 NFL draft with a pick that should hopefully, end up somewhere as the way it's looking now. And my guess is probably going to be somewhere in the top 10. I know, guys, unfortunate, not what any of us anticipated, but sadly, got to talk about it. Got to be real about it. This is where it's at. So I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate you guys. We got more episodes coming this week. We are going to have Ian Valentino in here. We're going to talk certainly the NFL draft. We're going to do, of course, a soft rebuild episode, trying to see what we can do to get this team right for 2025. So all things to watch. Appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd is a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. Become a filthy animal. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Become an everydayer for yourself. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.